I'm CK. Today we have another installment in the occasional series of tools and techniques that I use in my shop when I'm working on electronics, woodwork, whatever. Today we're going to look at something that you've seen bits and pieces of if you've watched any of my other videos, the actual workstation where I do soldering and electronic work predominantly. Hopefully this will give you some ideas, some thoughts about what you might want to adopt or maybe do differently. You might see something and say, well, that's good, but I want to do this instead. That's my goal, is to help you think about your workspace and maybe inspire you to do something that works very well for you. Hope you enjoy the video. So here's a reasonably wide shot of the workbench. What we've got going from left to right. As you can see, we've got a couple of spare parts bins here waiting for the next project. This is a little wooden box I built that holds index cards. If I get a inspiration or an idea, I just grab one out and write on it. iPad, 2 clocks, digital and the light clock, a timer I always forget to turn on, my water clock electronic project that I did a couple of months ago that I keep on the desk because it's fun to watch. Here we have our 2 solder aids, the Austin Ribbon Mike's solder buddy, or whatever he calls it, and a pan of ice just in case I need it. iPad, of course, to look up data sheets and build guides. A whole bunch of Sharpies, pencils, markers, and of course an X-Acto knife. A couple of random parts bins in the back to just toss things in when I don't know how to deal with them right at this second. A magnifying light, and even more importantly, my overhead work surface light. You really need to find a good light. So I'm going to move to a different angle and go closer on the other side. And this is the base of the magnifying lamp. And I keep this around really handy because it's got my panel nut wrench from the Heco, a couple of pieces of foam in case I need them, some X-Acto knives and a razor blade, Allen wrench, and some resistor ends in case I need a jumper for something. And over here is, on the right side, is some of the major stuff that's used constantly. First, the meter. It's a Fluke 87.5. I like it very much. Solder stand and my Weller workstation, soldering station. I use Weller for a lot of reasons. One very important reason is 36 years ago, their customer service treated me very well when I was in aviation, so I appreciated that and have been a loyalist. Now, of course, on top, you can see a Heco solder stand. I tried Heco, didn't like it, so I don't have the iron around. However, I do like the brass wool cleaner portion of the Heco stand, so I keep it around for that. And then, of course, this is an alternate. It's some copper wool that I use to clean my soldering tip sometimes. This, tell you where this came from. This came from the grocery store. A copper mesh scour sponge. I just bought it and took the copper mesh off the sponge, and I've got a copper cleaning solution. Another bin to just toss random stuff. I often have leads in there. Look, I've got a kit I haven't done sitting in there. Calculator. And then the thing that you see me reaching for a lot and is one of the most important things on the bench for organizational purposes is this. This is a Benchtop Organizer that I built. Got a little guy to help me out. Flush cutters, small needle nose, diagonal cutters, bending tools, long needle nose, whole bunch of tweezers, my pokey thing, desoldering tool, couple of clamps, straight and Phillips screws, screwdrivers, small ones, and of course underneath, where you see me reaching a lot, is solder. There's my 0.031 and there's my 0.04 solder. Now again, I built this. It's relatively easy to build. You just get a piece of wood about 4 inches deep, drill some 1-inch holes to drop things into. I put a little piece of lath on the back to keep my tweezers from falling off the back. A nice base, and on the bottom, an upright with a hole in it. I think that's a 1/2-inch hole, and that's a 1/2-inch piece of tubing that was spare from another project that I thread through the rolls of solder, and I can change solder out pretty easily. This is really handy because it keeps tools where they should be, and they're out of the way when I don't need them. You'll see me often do something, reach out a frame, and I'm putting the tool back in the rack. Again, I did some half-ass plans on that, and I could post them, but I don't think you need them. You can, if you want this, you can figure out how to do that. Next is the full side panel. And this is the side panel. My visor hangs here. When I'm working, my scissors are close at hand, some painter's tape, some electrical tape. My Nipex wire stripper is always there. My heavy-duty needle nose are there. Should stay in there. A more sophisticated calculator. These are very handy too. This is from stumac.com. These are thread sizers. So if you have a screw, you don't know what size it is, you try it against these SAE sizes or metric sizes and get an idea of what size the screw is. Same with a bolt or another inset threaded hole. You can check it out. These are very, very handy. Up here, some reading glasses, some more in-depth visoring, and you can't see the very top, but I've got some whiteboard markers up there. And finally, power. I've got a big power strip zip tied to this. This is actually the conduit that leads from my Tesla Powerwall batteries to the house in case I lose power. So lots of outlets there. This is a watt meter outlet that also gives you amperage and power factor and other things. I often use this when I'm working on a guitar amp and I want to see what power it may be drawing if there's a problem. So that's the workbench where I spend most of my time. One final thing, I almost forgot about this. This is a adhesive ruler. So if I need to measure anything, measure out a piece of wire, measure whatever, it's really easy at hand. This is not obviously micrometer precision. I've got some rulers hanging here to get more accuracy, but this is great for ballpark or close enough measuring, and they're very cheap. These blue tape marks, by the way, that's so when I'm videoing things, I know that I'm in the frame of the overhead camera. So that's a quick tour of the workbench where I spend most of my time. Hope it gave you some ideas. Thanks for watching.